assistant general manager of the Falcons, general manager of the Chiefs, and of course the vice president of player personnel for the New England Patriots. Scott Pioli, welcome back to Good Morning Football.
Thanks, Peter. Good morning to you. Good morning to the entire crew. How is everyone doing today?
Great. Good.
Great. Scott, we just heard from Lamar Jackson. What he had to say about the loss, saying, I think people want us to lose. Do you think the issue with the Ravens this year's on offense could boil down to Lamar's lack of his own confidence in his own abilities? What is your take?
You know, that's a great question, Peter. I don't think it's a lack of his own confidence. What it's starting to sound like is a lack of confidence in those around him. Some of the things that he's brought up last week, it sounded like maybe he was questioning the coaching a little bit, but not really trying to throw anyone under the bus. This week, he's saying we, when a lot of the great quarterbacks in the league, when things don't go right, they usually blame themselves. But now he's talking about we and they, and, you know, that they wanted it more than us than we did. You know, sometimes I think what he needs to learn to do is to be a little bit more careful. It's a very young player, tremendous talent, who's, you know, having adversity for the first time. I just think he needs to learn to be still a little bit and understand that he doesn't have to have an answer for every single question, and to have an answer, you know, that is going to be unintentionally inflammatory. I just think he needs to be still a little bit and understand that there's going to be some adversity, and sometimes not answering a question or talking too much will harm the team more than it'll help it.
That is some powerful insight there, Scott. That's why we have you on the show, and we're so grateful for you. And, of course, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family this week. Let's talk about the Steelers, though, because they do face the Ravens. It's the nightcap on Turkey Day night, actually. What's the Steelers' biggest challenge in preparing for this matchup?
Well, I think the biggest challenge they're going to have for this particular matchup, Kay, is the fact that they're playing a Ravens team that we just talked about is frustrated. And frustrated teams that are talented, like the Ravens, eventually break out. So that this week is going to be the biggest challenge that the Steelers face. However, at 10-0, they're going to start to feel what I call an emotional fatigue. We're going to learn about the Steelers' emotional endurance over the coming weeks. I remember in 2007 being with the Patriots, you know, every week that we moved forward, we said all the right things publicly. Everyone said it's a great challenge, and everyone was energized. But as I watched our team and I watched our players, there was a genuine emotional fatigue that the players were feeling and we were sensing. And we made it to 16-0. We made it to 18-0. But I tell you, those last couple of weeks, I could see in our players' eyes just how exhausted they were. And we were just wondering how much endurance they were going to have in able to, you know, and be able to finish out the season. And unfortunately, we didn't. So moving forward, I think that fatigue is going to be their greatest, you know, their greatest concern.
Scott, now on to the Cleveland Browns. There wasn't a lot of player turnover as far as significant players last year, yet the Browns are 7-3. So how much credit do you give this front office? Because they did have a complete overhaul to the coaching staff and those within the front office.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of credit should obviously go to Kevin Stefanski and the coaching staff. But I tell you, their general manager, Andrew Berry, is one of my favorite people in the league. And I have so much respect for him. People talk about Andrew and the fact that he went to Harvard and how smart he is. But here's one of the keys that I will say about Andrew in getting to know him and knowing him for a number of years. He is not only smart, but he's incredibly thoughtful. He's calm. He has a calming presence about him because that's who he is. So I think one of the things he's done in going in there is, if we notice, there's been some things that have gone wrong with the Cleveland Browns, but there's been very to little, if no, drama. So what he's done is brought a calming presence. He and his vice president of player personnel, Glenn Cook, and I don't know if any of you know him, but he's a tremendous young personnel man, and he's really good at his job. And again, I think there's far less drama and less leaking of family business. The other thing that I think that he did, Andrew, was bring in players that were key players. Again, it's not always the best players, it's the right players. And as an example, one of the players that he brought in this year for the defense to help them, I felt, with their team maturity is Adrian Claiborne. Adrian Claiborne is a player that totally flies under the radar. But he was with us in 2016 with the Atlanta Falcons, and he was one of the most key players in our locker room in terms of our young players, for Grady Jarrett, for Vic Beasley, for all of the young players that were needing to mature. Now, in 2016, with the Falcons, he was second on our team in sacks, tackles for loss, and quarterback hits. A couple of years later, he goes to the New England Patriots in 2018, the year they win the Super Bowl, and he's third in quarterback hits. Right now, this quiet Adrian Claiborne for the Cleveland Browns is third on the team in sacks and tackles for loss, but he brings this maturity and presence, and he's a player who does a great job of communicating, and that's what Andrew Berry does, is he's not only smart, but he's thoughtful.
It's a great endorsement, and the Browns don't have a ton of playoff-tested guys, Scott. It was great to hear. We also had an interesting aftermath in the Sunday night game against the Chiefs and Raiders, meaning the Chiefs won, but there was this sense here at our table that the Raiders played so well and they were so close, they almost had something approaching a win as well. What was your bigger takeaway from KC's win? Was it the Chiefs' resiliency or the fact that the Raiders seemed to put the whole AFC on notice?
Well, I think that the Chiefs just confirmed how resilient they are, how talented they are, and how good they are. But, Kyle, to answer your question, to me, the bigger takeaway in this game was that the Raiders have put the league and the AFC on watch. We knew that they were an ascending team. We knew that David Carr was getting better and better. But what we saw this week from David Carr was outstanding. You know, I really think that Mike Mayock and John Gruden have done a great job of building this football team to win the division. And that's what smart personnel builders and head coaches do, is they look at the best team in their division, the best team in their conference, find a way to match up with them, find a way to beat them, and that's what they've done. They have built a team that's trying to match this unbelievable speed that the Chiefs have. I don't know if you can ever do it, but they've done enough things on offense and defense to try to match up with the Chiefs. And if you beat the Chiefs, you win the division. Now, they will have continued matchups against this team. I think that we'll see this matchup again before the season's over, sometime in January.
Oh, we can only hope. That was an awesome matchup the first time, even better the second time. Can't wait. Scott, I remember when Adrian Claiborne had 6 sacks in one game against the Cowboys out of nowhere and helped your Atlanta Falcons beat the Cowboys that day. He's continuing to make an impact. Great call, especially with Myles Garrett out of the lineup. Scott Pioli, awesome work as always. Have an amazing Thanksgiving to you, your family, and from ours. Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you to everyone. I'm truly thankful for this season and being with you. This has been incredible. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you and all of those that you love. And really, please enjoy.